after the event as well. Okay, and hello everyone, welcome to our panel discussion today, Technological Challenges Startups Face. We have a fantastic group of speakers today, but before introducing them, please remember to mute microphones. Dear audience, please share your questions, comments, additional viewpoints regarding the topic in the comments. We will do our best to answer them during the panel discussion or later in the Slack channel. My name is Balint Bene, CEO of Bene Studio, and I will be the moderator today. My company does health tech mobile and web application development and design. Our goal with our work is to help product companies solving their technological challenges. And our panelists today are Eric Gastfriend, CEO and co-founder of Dynamicare Health, Craig Limoli, CEO of Wellsheet, Sloan Saunders, CEO and co-founder of Intellihealth. And my first question is to our panelists. Who are you and what kind of digital health product do you have? Please answer in a brief 1 minute. Let's start with Eric.
I'm Eric Gastfriend, again, CEO of Dynamicare Health. I explained a little bit before, but we're a digital health company focused on addiction to drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. And we address addiction using a digital therapeutic plus coaching program. So we combine an award-winning app with a supportive recovery coach, and we mail our members breath and saliva testing devices. They get random alerts in the app saying, Eric, please do a breath test in the next 2 hours. Record selfie video of myself breathing into the breathalyzer. Get the results automatically over Bluetooth, and then the video serves as proof that's really me doing the test. If I test negative, I earn rewards on a smart debit card, which blocks access to bars, liquor stores, and cash withdrawals. It's a highly effective evidence-based program. We've completed 3 clinical studies showing doubling to tripling of quit rates, all published in high-quality peer-reviewed journals. We're working with a number of major health plans now and some major health systems and addiction treatment providers too. And yeah, really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric, and let's continue with Sloan.
Yeah, hi, Sloan Saunders, CEO of Intellihealth. Essentially our primary mission is treating obesity effectively by leveraging technology. We're helping to scale and democratize access to effective obesity specialty care. Our main product is a software platform called Evolve that helps health systems, clinicians, and various organizations with a dynamic and personalized recommendations and specific clinical protocols that providers can help to implement to distribute this type of care. We work with a myriad of organizations ranging from New York Presbyterian to Mass General Brigham, the Veterans Administration and Indian Health Services, and then some payers and self-insured corporations. Regarding efficacy, we usually see about 75% of our patients who go through our program achieving a 5% weight loss milestone with a mean weight loss of 10%. We recently had a Corey-funded randomized controlled trial done at the Mass General. Those results were published in JAMA in November, and we were recently awarded another Corey grant to basically implement our software platform across the Boston-based area. We're currently looking for other sites that we've identified to expand that implementation across the US. So look forward to participating in the panel and meeting everybody.
Great, thanks, Sloan. And last but not least, Craig.
Hi, everyone. Craig Limoli, founder, CEO of Wellsheet. At Wellsheet, as I mentioned, we are really focused on combating clinician burnout. And this has been obviously an issue, a tremendous issue in the healthcare industry for some time. Clinicians burning out and has obviously been exacerbated really severely by the pandemic and the past 18 months and the strain that's put on the system and our frontline clinicians. And Wellsheet obviously doesn't address all causes of burnout, but the EHR-induced causes of burnout is really where we focus, the inefficiencies in that day-to-day workflow that really cause a lot of frustration and challenges in delivering care to patients. And we do this by creating a much more intuitive view of the information that physicians need, clinicians need to make treatment decisions for patients. by embedding directly within the electronic health record workflow and really surfacing the content that a clinician really wants to see in the format that they want to see it in. And our system is designed to really learn as clinicians interact with it, to get better and better at predicting what content to show over time. So we have multiple thousand physicians at sites like RWJ-Barnabas Health in New Jersey, where we've been able to show a greater than 40% reduction in the amount of time that physicians have to spend in the EHR as a result of having access to Wellsheet. And we see how they interact with our system, and that really provides information on what information is most important to them in particular clinical contexts, so we can help to really deliver that information much more efficiently over time as well. And we're starting to see really significant impacts to cost of care in terms of length of stay on the inpatient side, seeing that come down substantially by removing these workflow inefficiencies and ensuring that clinicians have the right information at the right time during the patient's inpatient stay. And we've started to work with payers recently as well, and are integrating their data into the physician workflow in a way that's seamlessly combined with the data in the EHR itself, which allows physicians not only to have a much more user-friendly view of the information they need, but also a much more comprehensive view of the patient's medical history from the payer extending across multiple health systems in that particular region. So it's really a way to address a lot of those inefficiencies that exist in the EHR, and also the fragmentation of patient information that results in blind spots at the point of care as well.
Thanks, Craig, and thank you, our panelists, for your introduction. We can see 3 different companies, 3 great stories, and let's continue with the discovery, how to overcome technological challenges as a startup or even as a product manager at a bigger enterprise. It's a so important question nowadays. So I would like to ask you, what was the biggest technological challenge you faced so far, and how did you solve that? And Eric, what was your biggest technological challenge so far?
I would say our biggest technological challenge has been probably on the security side, meeting the requirements and expectations that our health plan customers have for us. So I think one misconception I had going into the health tech world was that HIPAA is the law. If we understand, and for those of you outside the U.S., HIPAA is the U.S. Patient Privacy Protection Law at a federal level. So I thought, if we understand the law, read the law, make sure that everything we do is compliant with that, then we're HIPAA compliant. We can work with health plans and payers, major health systems. And what it turns out is what the law requires is a very reasonable level of security, encryption, things like that. And people complain about HIPAA all the time, but I think actually the law is well written and it's reasonable. But then what health plans and major payers, large organizations require is far above and beyond what HIPAA requires. They have their own internal requirements and processes, third-party risk assessments, et cetera. So meeting the level of stringency expected from some of our health plan partners was a lot more challenging than what we had expected. We had to really revisit a lot of our core processes around how our employees handle PHI, how they touch it. So, the first third-party risk assessment we went through with the payer took 3 months. And then we thought oh, wow, our security is really good now. And then we went through another one with the payer that took 6 months. So it's been quite a learning curve, especially in the sales process, to kind of build in time for that.
Yeah, so basically for you, HIPAA is just the base, and in every sales situation, you have to discover not just the business requirements, but also the technical and security requirements as well.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of unfortunate that there isn't a standardized risk assessment tool or process. Of course, if you have like SOC 2 or high trust certifications, that helps a lot, but those take a long time, are challenging to get. The actual practice is each customer, payer, they have their own security questionnaire. They're all using different ones. Each one is like 300 questions. So like, you answer one, you can save your answers, but then the next time you do it, you have to read through all 300 questions again and like mix and match the answers to the right question. So it's an unscalable process. And I hope that as the industry matures, there will be more standard questionnaires. I know there's one being developed called Together.health, which is designed to be a standard one. I hope that gets more traction.
And how to prepare for such an assessment? So what can you advise to fellow founders who are before this step?
Yeah, I think if you can have a plan in place to go for SOC 2 certification, and if you can get that, I think that like answers a lot of the questions, concerns that major customers have.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And Sloan, have you faced similar issues?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of technology challenges, especially as a startup. Privacy and security being one. We're actually going through the process of getting high trust certified right now. In addition, we do sort of bug bounties, annual penetration testing. So I definitely, IBID that aspect. I was going to throw another one, which maybe is somewhat unique to ours, but definitely applicable to a lot of other startups, is EHR integration. Specifically with the US, and Craig, knows this intimately. We went through an EHR integration across New York Presbyterian, and they use Epic. But the funny thing, even with that integration, it's different versions of Epic between Weill Cornell, Columbia, and even the affiliated hospitals. So I would say that was probably one of our biggest challenges this year. And we're starting another one with Mass General right now. But I think, a lot of innovation needs to happen in the space. And I know, to Eric's point, a lot of companies are trying to sort of create sort of a common language to help with that.
And what was the biggest takeaway for you? So how to solve this kind of issues easier in the future?
I think it goes to sort of the larger question of what you want to build internally versus, outsource, and knowing that these things are coming down the pike and having a sort of a good plan and good documentation surrounding that. I think that is paramount to be prepared for, the coming challenges, because every situation is unique, from, the security IT audits to, the HR.
Mm-hmm. So you would recommend taking care of the documentations as a good source of wisdom?
Absolutely, and learn from other people's mistakes, so you don't have to go through them yourself.
Yeah, this is why we are here, to learn from each other's successes and mistakes as well. So that's the reason. And Craig, I guess you also can add a few thoughts to the integrations.
Yeah, that's a big one. EHR integration, and obviously a space that we live and breathe every day. Big part of what we do, and it's a really big challenge, especially early on for a startup. The EHR vendors don't tend to partner with early stage companies until they have some mutual customer and a proof point that you can point to, that you're proving out the product. But when you have a product like ours, which depends on EHR integration, it becomes a chicken and egg situation where you can't prove out the product until you have the EHR integration, and you can't get the EHR integration until you prove out the product. So for us early on, it was a huge challenge that we ended up partnering with pretty obscure EHR vendors, deploying to small practices, single physician practices, and then building our way up. Then we partnered with Intellihealth, which was more forward thinking, and made an exception for us to enter into their API program to be able to integrate into their system and deploy to small practices across the country through that partnership. And that was enough to get the attention of large health systems, which tend to be the clients of Epic and Cerner, to be able to open those doors. So it was a really incremental process that we built over time to be able to gain access to our really target market, large health systems that are typically the clients of Epic and Cerner, which is where we've operated for the past few years, really as our core focus. So that's a huge challenge, and EHR integration has been done the same way for decades. Prior to founding Wellsheet, I was at IBM in their Watson Health division. We were connecting dozens of different EHR systems through HL7 interfaces, which has been the way that this has been done for a very, very long time. And it's a tremendously inefficient process. So it's really powerful to now have these APIs that you can plug into that are much more scalable across the EHR deployments, and really consistent from one Epic site to the next, where HL7 interfaces are very much not consistent. And same thing on the Cerner side. There's a lot of consistency, centralization of these APIs that have been exposed. So that would definitely be the path that I would recommend. There's also third parties that you can connect to. Sloan mentioned they work with Redox. That's a great one. A good example that standardize these APIs as well. But it's definitely a big challenge, and there's a lot of performance and scalability challenges that come along with the APIs that you have to figure out along the way, that we've invested a lot of engineering talent into being able to manage. And we have a sophisticated pre-synchronization system so that by the time a physician clicks the Wellsheet button in the EHR, we already have all the data ready for them. So it's an instantaneous experience. But that takes a lot of work. So it's definitely a complex area. And we're ultimately hoping to serve as a conduit into the physician workflow in the EHR, and kind of an alternative approach to what Redox does, where we can actually surface third parties' data and content to the physician in Wellsheet in a single view with the data that they're reviewing from the EHR. And that's the same type of model that we're working with payers now around, is getting their content, their gaps in care and clinical claims data to physicians at the point of care.
Okay, so taking care of API integrations, finding the more scalable solutions, or even third-party partners could be a good solution for such pains.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a good takeaway for all the health companies, because most of them must integrate with the other systems. And Craig and Sloan both mentioned the balance between external vendors like API aggregators and internal expertise. So what could be the good balance? What do you think, Eric?
I'll leave it to you.
Okay, Sloan, you already started this topic. So what can you see as a good balance with internal expertise and external vendors?
Yeah, I would say, I actually talked to some of my product managers about this in advance of the panel discussion. I mean, we currently use over 25 vendors, from interoperability to text messaging to telehealth, and this, age-old dilemma of sort of building in-house versus, buying through a vendor, is really core to, how a young company can start to really, leapfrog and scale. I think the, balancing act is, understanding sort of, how to continue to keep that sort of IP ownership and capabilities in-house, and also assessing sort of the ROI, return on investment. of these endeavors. I think, paramount throughout, this assessment is maintaining sort of IP ownership and protection, through various legal agreements, making sure that, they can actually, use, your systems, such as, we use Jira and Git. And then, and I guess for all the lawyers on the call, making sure that you have sort of a robust, contract with them that, make sure that all these pitfalls are identified, as you start to really scale. And, we're starting to bring a lot of those external capabilities, internally now.
And what was the biggest pitfall you experienced in terms of vendors or externals?
I would just say execution risk. Given, when you outsource it, you really don't have as much control. So, you need to sort of structure it in a way where there are, carrots and sticks. You prefer to use more carrots than sticks, I think, in most relationships. But, I think that is some of the bigger challenges where, accountability, when you start to hire external vendors, to make sure your interests are aligned, and they create the product in a, effective and timely fashion, I think is the biggest focus.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And on the flip side, what was your best experience with external partners, vendors?
I think we actually brought on, it was a small company that we initially outsourced to and eventually actually acquired the company to bring it in-house. So I think we had a very good relationship that, I think going into it, expectations were clearly articulated, transparency was outlined, and they exceeded our initial expectations to eventually just want to, actually just acquire them.
Wow, it's a real success story. And Craig, on your side, what was the biggest pitfall with any kind of vendors?
Yeah, so we definitely have a really strong bias for doing things internally as much as possible, and owning the kind of end-to-end software development process. That's just been our culture as a company. However, there are exceptions. So we worked with a consulting organization to recently migrate to AWS from Salesforce Heroku for our architecture, hosting our architecture. And it actually was we were very, very happy with the way that went. And we partnered very closely with them to be able to execute there. And we vetted a wide variety of firms to land on this one, which was a close AWS partner. Where we see more challenges is with partners, and for example, our first payer contract was with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield in New Jersey, the largest payer in New Jersey. And they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in developing essentially a HIE system, health information exchange system, that we plugged into to be able to pull that data into the clinician workflow at the point of care. But Horizon and all payers are really not technology first companies. So there was a lot of learning along the way that was our first payer integration, but also so we had some learning on our side, but we had to help them learn as well on the technical side. So I think going into that eyes wide open and recognizing that there's definitely not a high level of technical expertise at a lot of the kind of legacy healthcare companies, mm-hmm. So that you can make sure that you're staffing that type of project sufficiently to also support that level of collaboration and coordination on an ongoing basis is really critical.
Mm-hmm. And
I can I can jump in here too. So we've been working with Bene Studio to help us with software development, which has been really great experience. And I think there's a lot of like kind of interesting challenges in terms of whether you develop in-house or use external parties to help with that. And we've done both. I think one of the key challenges that we've had to work through is security. And how do you manage that and the processes around that with an external team. So we have a lot of developers working on the Dynamicare platform through Bene Studio, but who don't have access to like protected health information or health data. So that's one way of kind of having a clear boundary and maintaining security. I think another thing that was interesting for me as a learning perspective was like thinking through the pricing of doing something in-house versus with external vendors. And, if one thing that you forget about when you're thinking about like the price of a developer in-house is it's not just the cost of their salary. It's also like they have to have like a manager, like a CTO who's going to spend time like overseeing them, checking their code. You need to spend time hiring people, benefits, vacation time, all of that. So when you're trying to do kind of like the apples to apples comparison of what it costs to have someone in-house versus externally, those are all things that you need to take into account. And I think the biggest thing is like the effort to find and hire good, talented engineers. It's very difficult, especially in this market. And so working with an external group that has talented engineers already can be it's not just a way to save money, it's a way to really save time and effort and bandwidth and focus. And I see, Craig, you're nodding your head, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that.
It is an incredibly tough labor market for all roles, but especially software engineering. So certainly getting support there, even temporarily, right, to be able to maintain that level of speed, I think is really can be really helpful, especially early on. So I completely agree with that.
And what's about time pressure? What Eric mentioned that there is this timing aspect as well. So startups need to grow fast. How are you with this expectation from the investors?
Yeah, so investors always expect startups to grow as quick as possible, and it's never fast enough. And I think obviously everyone just tries to grow as fast as they can, invest a lot of resources in it, and you may not grow as fast as the investors want or desire, but hopefully it's fast enough and the investors are happy with it. And I think, utilizing an external vendor for software development is, one way to really speed up the process because you don't have to go out and hire like a whole team. There are teams of people who are already solid, talented, experienced working together, have processes set up.
And Sloan, you also started the outsourcing with this goal, being able to grow faster, or you had other reasons?
I think it's a combination of speed and certainty of execution. Again, if you structure the arrangement, appropriately, I think, even from a cost perspective, it allows you to scale up pretty quickly and, adapt if needed. I think, once you reach some type of sort of, scale, you can start to critically think about what, is more, time and cost and execution efficient to keep with a third party or bring in-house. But I think, speed and certainty, again, assuming that everything is structured, aligned, is paramount.
Yeah, thanks, Sloan. And to summarize our discussion, what can you see as a usual health tech technological challenge at other startups, enterprises? So what's the trend nowadays? And Craig, what can you see on the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenges that we talked through are really representative. I think security is a huge one. That's every tech company selling into a health system, partnering with an EHR vendor, selling into a payer, and anytime you're accessing PHI, there's inevitably going to be a security review, and being prepared for that, and having the know-how to navigate those often very intensive reviews is incredibly important. And then, EHR integration, I think, is another huge one that not all startups, but most healthcare technology companies ultimately have to tackle one way or another. That represents really big challenges for early stage companies for the reasons we've touched on previously. And then I think rounding it out with the latest one that we just talked about in terms of just finding good talent and being able to scale quickly enough to execute in a way that is viewed by investors as fast enough or at least almost. Is really challenging, and so getting supplementary help from third parties is definitely a really interesting approach to that.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. And Sloan, what can you add to Craig's points? What can you see on the market as tech challenge?
Yeah, I would say not too much. He did a good job touching all the bases. I think it is a good synopsis of what the discussion, really comprised of. I think talent, in my mind, if I had to pick one, is the hardest, especially given the current dynamics in the landscape. Even just across healthcare, consumer product people, UI UX, and then the hybrid evolving situation of in-house versus outsourced, and being able to do sort of round the clock product development at attractive price points. And even managing, multi-geography product teams to build a cost-effective and efficient, product development cycle.
And within your partners, what have you seen as a good example for such a challenge?
I would say we're continuing to evaluate, what. And again, everything's changing. Our CTO comes from an EHR company, and before that, he actually worked for eBay and PayPal. So he's seen a bunch of things along the spectrum. But I think you need to really continue to evaluate what the market, has, both being able to actually bring in-house or just, outsource, and be adapting to, the current landscape. So
what differences have you seen between other industry experiences and the health tech space?
There are a lot of parallels, again, just from our personal experience with financial technology and healthcare technology, especially on the data AI ML side. One of our head data scientists actually comes from IBM Watson and most recently at Charles Schwab, building the AI ML on their intelligent advisor portfolio. So I would say, finance is an area that we've looked to help get additional resources because of the applicability.
Yeah, thanks, Sloan. And Eric, what's your perspective on this question?
The challenges facing health tech. I think
yes. On the market, what can you see? Not just the startups, but also bigger organizations as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say just at like a high level, I think the biggest challenges facing health tech is actually not the tech. It's the fact that the healthcare system is often not ready for the tech. It looks like Sloan's smiling there. He knows what I'm talking about. It's the fact that the payers, the providers, they're not really set up to pay for technology that delivers clinical value. The healthcare system is not really set up to pay for clinical value in the first place, let alone technology for that. So that I think that's the big challenge, which, like, even if you have like the best tech and you build the best product, there may be no like way to get paid for it in the healthcare system. But I think the other challenge that's more kind of on the technology side is, I think a lot of people working in healthcare, providers and people like that feel, and patients too, feel like the healthcare system is fine as it is without technology. And of course, you hear providers, doctors complaining about EHRs all the time. And a lot of them hate the fact that they have to use EHRs, and they're like, why can't we just go back to paper and pencil? I think the challenge that we have as health tech companies is to make the technology easy enough to use and fit into the existing processes, so that it's not like a burden on the healthcare system to adopt it, but it makes their lives easier, not harder. And that's a big challenge.
Thank you, Eric, for your summary, and thank you everybody for the wonderful time together. And I would like to invite you all to join us next year as well. Please don't forget to place your written introductions and asks in the I'm looking for channel in Slack, and let's continue the conversations. The Slack space link is in the chat, you can find there. And for more HealthTech Networking Club news, please follow Balint Studio on social media. Let's connect on Slack, and see you all in January. And special thanks for our panel speakers today.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Sloan.
Thanks,
you,
guys.
everybody.
Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.